After my daughter's birthday, she curiously opened a gift box and suddenly collapsed to the floor. I was shocked when I looked inside the mysterious box and immediately called my husband. He arrived with the police, and when an officer saw the box, he shouted, "Stay away from ITI." After an investigation, it was revealed that the gift box was sent. One evening, my daughter came home with tears running down her face. She had just come back from a Christmas gathering at her grandparents' house, where she had been invited earlier that week. It was clear that something had upset her deeply. Without saying a word, she handed me a small, neatly wrapped gift. "Mom, look at this," she said in a shaky voice. "Why do I have to go through this?" I could see the pain in her eyes, and my heart ached for her. Gently, I unwrapped the package, trying to understand what had hurt her so much. To my shock, the gift inside was completely wrong for a child. Alarmed and very worried, I knew I had to take action. Without wasting time, I decided to report it to the police. That one decision set off a chain of events that exposed the person responsible. The situation led to serious consequences for them and caused huge problems within the family. It created a lot of drama and tension, straining relationships. But, in the end, justice was served. At 44 years old, my life was already quite different from most people's. I had a younger husband and we both worked at the same company. In fact, that's where we met, when I was 35 and had just started a new career. My previous job had ended badly after my old boss made a cruel remark about my age, making me feel like I wasn't good enough. Thankfully, my new workplace was different. They valued hard work and skills instead of things like age or gender. My husband, who was my supervisor back then, supported me and helped me believe in myself. We fell in love quickly and got married soon after. Now, we have a wonderful daughter in 5th grade. She is kind-hearted, loves reading, and always tries to make friends with everyone. Even though I got along well with most of my husband's family, things were never easy with his sister. She never liked that I was older than her brother and often made fun of how fast we got married. She would make comments about my age and how I looked over time, always finding ways to criticize me. During my pregnancy, my sister-in-law was especially cruel to me. Her words were hurtful, but I tried my best to stay calm and not let them affect me. I knew it was better for my own peace of mind. Surprisingly, her attitude changed after she had a quick wedding of her own and moved far away. With her gone, I could finally enjoy the peaceful joy of getting ready to welcome my daughter into the world. Giving birth to our daughter was not easy. It was a tough and exhausting experience, but, at the same time, it was one of the happiest moments of our lives. My husband was by my side the whole time, offering words of love and support. His encouragement gave me the strength to face every challenge. I will never forget the moment our baby let out her first cry. My husband held my hand, tears in his eyes, and whispered how proud and thankful he was. It was a moment of pure happiness. But just 6 months after our daughter was born, my sister-in-law had a baby boy. Soon, she started visiting us again. Even though it took her an hour to get to our home, it didn't take long to realize why she was coming so often. Her visits had a purpose. She kept making negative comments, comparing my daughter to her son. She even said my age could be seen in my daughter's face, pointing out imaginary wrinkles while praising her own baby's smooth skin. Her words hurt, but I tried to focus on my baby and the joys of motherhood. What confused me most was her behavior. She never brought anything for the babies, no diapers, no toys, nothing. Instead, she would leave with things from our home, like baby formula and diapers, saying she didn't want to run out. It felt like she was visiting more to criticize me and take things for herself than to spend time with family. Thankfully, her visits stopped when her husband got a new job and they moved to another state. Life became much calmer, and our daughter soon started elementary school. She quickly made new friends, and to my surprise, her cousin, the same boy my sister-in-law always compared her to, was enrolled at the same school. Even though there was tension between the adults in the family, the 3 children became close friends and shared a warm, happy bond. My daughter has always been kind and caring, often looking after her younger cousin. By the time they reached 3rd grade, they were in the same class. Her teachers often praised her for her kindness and hard work. That summer, she completed a reading project that earned her special recognition from the school. Her review of the book was so well written that it was published in the local newspaper. This was a big achievement and she received a lot of praise for it. During a family visit to my in-laws' house, everyone started talking about her success. Relatives gathered to congratulate her and I could see how proud they were. But, my sister-in-law didn't seem happy at all. In fact, she looked annoyed. She complained that it wasn't fair that her son wasn't getting the same attention. She even claimed that the book my daughter read was actually meant for her son. The truth was, the kids had exchanged books over the summer and had chosen together which ones to use for their projects. My daughter's success wasn't about competing with anyone. It was about her love for learning and the effort she put in. But my sister-in-law's reaction made it clear that she didn't like the attention being on someone other than her son. Despite moments like these, I have learned to focus on the good things. Watching my daughter grow into a smart, kind, and strong young girl has been the greatest joy of my life. Through all the challenges, my husband's love and support have kept me strong. Family relationships can be complicated, but at the heart of everything, our daughter continues to show us the importance of kindness, strength, and facing life with an open heart. This situation also showed the big difference between how the children behaved and how the adults reacted. My nephew had actually liked the book my daughter picked for her project, and since she is generous, she let him have it first. This small but thoughtful act showed how well they supported and shared with each other despite the tension between the adults. When I shared my daughter's success, my sister-in-law made a shocking accusation. She claimed that I was the one who wrote the award-winning reflection for my daughter. She must have remembered that I used to write novels in college, a fact she likely heard from my husband. But that wasn't even the worst part. Behind my back, she started spreading nasty rumors at my daughter's school. She told people that I had used personal connections with the judges to give my daughter an unfair advantage. These false accusations deeply hurt my daughter. She became so discouraged by the gossip and lies that she lost all interest in her favorite hobby, reading. Watching her lose something she once loved was heartbreaking for me. Not only was my daughter the victim of cruel rumors, but I was also being unfairly targeted. Before taking any action, I sat down with my husband and told him everything. I shared how his sister had mistreated me from the start. I reminded him how she had taken clothes meant for our daughter, saying that babies didn't care about boy or girl outfits. I told him how she had made fun of me during pregnancy, comparing me to a sumo wrestler. My husband was furious. He agreed that it was time to involve his parents and said we needed to address this directly. Together, we went to his sister's house to confront her. At first, she seemed happy, thinking our visit was a friendly one. But her excitement quickly turned to shock when my husband firmly scolded her. Instead of admitting her mistakes, she got angry at me. She accused me of betraying her by telling everything to her favorite brother. She acted like she was the victim and tried to shift the blame. At first, I answered her phone calls, thinking she might want to apologize, but I soon realized she was only calling to complain and blame me. Eventually, I stopped answering her calls and sent them straight to voicemail. After about 3 weeks, she finally stopped trying to reach me. I thought she had moved on, but later, I found out that wasn't true. Last month of year, my in-laws decided to host a Christmas party for the kids. It was their first time doing something like this. The timing seemed odd to me, but my daughter was thrilled about the invitation. She had fond memories of a Christmas party from her kindergarten days and hoped this one would be just as fun. Sadly, her elementary school didn't allow holiday celebrations due to their strict rules about religious events. I often wonder why some people follow strict religious traditions so seriously, especially since Christmas is now a holiday celebrated in many ways all over the world. Thinking about this, I decided that my daughter and I would celebrate the holiday in our own special way. For the past 3 years, we had enjoyed a quiet Christmas at home, and our favorite part was exchanging gifts. This year, my in-laws invited us to a Christmas party, and they set a small gift exchange budget of $12. Excited about the idea, my daughter and I went shopping at a big mall nearby to find the perfect gift. After looking at different options, she happily picked one of her favorite picture books, eager to share its story with someone at the party. On the day of the event, my daughter left for my in-laws' home, carrying the gift in her hands. Since their house was just a short bus ride away, she told my mother-in-law her plan, and my mother-in-law kindly offered to pick her up from the bus stop. Later, I got a call letting me know that my daughter had arrived safely, which allowed me to relax for a while. But my peace didn't last long. Less than 55 minutes later, I heard the front door open. The sound startled me because it was a weekday, and I knew my husband was still at work. Since I was working from home during my daughter's winter break, I wasn't expecting anyone. What I saw next broke my heart. My daughter stood at the entrance, her face covered in tears. She didn't say a single word. Instead, she handed me a neatly wrapped gift bag. The pain in her eyes told me that whatever was inside would explain everything. My heart sank as I took the bag from her trembling hands, afraid of what I might find. When I opened it, my hands shook. Inside was a torn newspaper, her reading reflection, ripped to pieces. Alongside it was a chilling card written in red ink, warning us not to act too proud or we might end up like the ruined stuffed animal also in the bag. The toy was destroyed and covered in red ink, made to look like blood. A cold shiver ran down my spine. This wasn't a joke. It was a cruel and deliberate act meant to scare my daughter. Still shaken, she finally told me the shocking truth. The disturbing gift had come from my sister-in-law. I was shocked. This Christmas party was supposed to be a happy event for the kids. The adults had all agreed not to prepare gifts themselves, so I never expected something so cruel to happen. Even though I didn't go with my daughter, I could never have imagined that someone would do this to her. What made it even worse was what I found out later. My mother-in-law had no idea that her daughter would be at the party. She had always told us to report any trouble caused by her. But this time, it seemed my sister-in-law had gone behind everyone's back. This betrayal hurt me deeply. I gently reminded my daughter to tell her grandmother about what had happened. But, before she could, my aunt interrupted with a strange comment. She said that only children from missionary schools were welcome at certain events. My daughter, confused, asked what a missionary school was. I struggled to explain. Recently, a relative had been accepted into one, and it had been a big topic of conversation in the family. My sister-in-law's son attended a missionary kindergarten, and it seemed like she was using this as another way to criticize us for sending our daughter to a regular public school instead. I was already overwhelmed by the disturbing gift, and this was the final straw. I decided that I had to take action. Without wasting any more time, I went straight to the police to report the incident. At first, the officers didn't take it seriously. They said this was a family issue and should be handled privately. But then, a kind female officer understood the seriousness of the situation. She explained that threats and harassment, even from family, were still against the law. She promised to issue a warning to my sister-in-law. That evening, when my husband came home, I told him everything. He was furious. Without hesitation, he called his parents and told them what had happened. They were shocked. They insisted they had no idea their daughter had been at the party. They guessed that she might have sneaked in through an unlocked back door while my mother-in-law was busy with other tasks. The next day, after the police officer had given my sister-in-law a warning, my in-laws decided to hold a family meeting to talk about the situation. At the meeting, my sister-in-law and her husband arrived late. She walked in looking angry, clearly upset that the police had been involved. Her husband, on the other hand, seemed completely clueless about why the meeting had even been called. When everyone finally learned the full truth about what my sister-in-law had done, her husband was shocked. He apologized to us many times, clearly ashamed of his wife's behavior. His reaction was completely different from hers. While he showed regret, she remained stubborn. She refused to take responsibility and argued that since the police didn't arrest her, she must have done nothing wrong. Her refusal to admit her mistakes left everyone speechless. Then, something completely unexpected happened. Her husband announced that he was filing for divorce. The room fell silent. No one had seen any signs that their marriage was in trouble. He then explained that he had been dealing with her behavior for years. She had not only neglected her responsibilities at home but had also caused problems for their family because of her careless actions. She was obsessed with appearances, which led them to move several times, not because they needed to, but because she wanted to impress others. Many of these moves were connected to her dream of getting their son into elite schools, but each time, things didn't go as planned, and they ended up embarrassed. In the end, their son simply joined a regular public school, a decision his father fully supported, even though she had fought against it. Her recent harassment of our family was the last straw for him. It pushed him to finally end the marriage. Completely caught off guard by her husband's decision, my sister-in-law quickly tried to change her attitude. She gave a weak apology, saying her actions were just harmless jokes, but no one believed her. The threatening card, the ruined toy, and the hateful message were far from a joke. What she did was cruel and completely unacceptable, especially since it targeted a child. I confronted her directly. I told her, being a parent doesn't automatically make you a good one. It's your actions that show if you truly care. She had nothing to say in response. The damage she had caused to the family was beyond repair. No one stood up for her anymore. As the meeting ended, it became clear that this was a turning point, not just for her, but for all of us. While she remained bitter and refused to change, the rest of us focused on protecting our children and moving forward. We refused to let her negativity control our lives anymore. I realized that standing up for my daughter wasn't just important, it was powerful. No matter how difficult the situation, I would always protect her and teach her that kindness, strength, and courage are far greater than cruelty. I looked my sister-in-law in the eye and told her that her behavior was completely unacceptable. She had crossed a line, and this wasn't something that could just be ignored. My husband, clearly frustrated, spoke firmly to her. "Crying won't fix anything," he said. "You're old enough to take responsibility for what you've done. Don't expect your tears to make people feel sorry for you." But she kept crying, insisting she had done nothing wrong. Then, she turned things around and started blaming me. She claimed that the family was only upset because I had married her brother, saying the real problem wasn't her actions, but the fact that I was older than him. Her refusal to see the seriousness of what she had done left us speechless. My husband, in particular, seemed deeply hurt by her unwillingness to take responsibility. The tension in the room was heavy. It was clear that nothing would be resolved, and the conversation ended abruptly. Her husband, looking embarrassed, quietly took her home. Even though she refused to admit her mistakes, the divorce process continued. She made it as difficult as possible, refusing to cooperate. But in the end, something unexpected pushed things forward. Her own son, in his innocent honesty, told his classmates about the Christmas party and the disturbing gift. He described in detail how the stuffed animal had been torn apart and covered in red ink to look like blood. His story quickly spread through the school, and soon, teachers and parents became concerned. This accidental confession led to even more gossip, which deeply affected my daughter. She struggled to go back to school, her spirits crushed by the whispers and rumors linking her to the incident. It became clear how one cruel and careless act could spread far beyond what anyone expected, hurting so many innocent people in the process. I had hoped everything could be settled quietly, giving my daughter time to heal and return to school when she was ready. Her cousin never meant to cause trouble by sharing the story. He was just desperate for someone to stop his mother's harmful behavior. Hearing everything his son had said, my sister-in-law's husband was deeply shaken. He decided to speed up the divorce process. He agreed to her demands just to finalize the separation, wanting to move on for his son's sake. By then, my sister-in-law had become well known in the community, but not in a good way. People saw how she had mistreated children, and her reputation suffered. Neighbors who once treated her kindly now wanted nothing to do with her. Feeling trapped and rejected, she saw the divorce as her way out. She assumed she could return to her parents' house for comfort, but when she got there, they refused to let her in. Even they had reached their limit. Meanwhile, her husband stood firm in his decision to keep custody of their son. Surprisingly, she didn't even argue. Instead, she coldly said she didn't care about her child, claiming that kids were a burden and would get in the way of her plans to remarry. Her cruel words did not go unanswered. Her son, showing incredible strength, told her he didn't need her in his life. He found comfort and security with his father and even warned her to stay away from my daughter. After being turned away from her parents' home, her situation got worse. She struggled to support herself and fell into debt. Eventually, she disappeared completely. My husband and his parents decided not to report her missing. To them, her absence was not a problem. It was a solution. In the days that followed, my daughter slowly regained her confidence and returned to school. Her cousin remained by her side, promising to always look out for her. This difficult experience unexpectedly brought our families closer. My former brother-in-law became a trusted friend, and we worked together to support the children. My in-laws, too, stepped up. They gave both grandchildren all the love and care they needed, helping to create a safe and happy environment. With my sister-in-law out of the picture, peace finally returned to our family. The trust and understanding that had been lost in all the conflict began to grow again. Together, we moved forward stronger than ever.